I was praying this week about what to share, and I had like a brand new, shiny message all ready to bring, and I really felt God redirect me. And he took me back to a message I've preached a long time ago. I haven't preached it for maybe 4 years or so, and it really was becoming so clear to me that that's what he would have me share with you today. And I don't know who this is for in this room, but I know that this is going to be a bit of a God setup for you today. And the title really is Trust in the Lord. We're going to look a little bit at trust. It's one of those words that some of us sometimes go, ouch. It's a challenge. Trust is a challenge. And we're going to look this morning at what it means to trust in the Lord and not to lean on your own understanding. And I'm going to tell you something that happened a few years ago. When my children were young, I've got 2 boys, and there's 2.5 years between them. And the older one could cycle, and he had a bike, and he was cycling around on our street, and the younger one was on one of these. He had a little bike, and it had wheels on it like this at the back, stabilizers. And as I was watching them play, the older one without the stabilizers was doing little bunny hops, and he was going up and down the curbs, and he was getting speed and maneuverability, and he was doing little figures of 8, and he was getting himself around the street really well. And the younger one, watching his older brother, which he's probably spent his whole life doing, trying to keep up, was doing all the same things with these stabilizers on the back, and he was desperately trying to get up the curb and trying to keep up with the speed and trying to do all the same tricks. And he was getting the wheels stuck on the curb, and they kept getting in his way. And I saw him get to a point where he got off his bike. He was maybe about 4 years old, and he literally dragged it like this little boy, dragging his bike all the way up the front steps. He kicked the door open, he put this in front of me, and he went, "These have got to go." He got to a point where he realized that the thing that was supposed to be keeping him stable, that was supposed to be there for a season, that season was over. He wanted to be free to do all the other maneuvers and the speed and the agility that he could see his brother having. And you know what? I have seen many people go through their lives with stabilizers on. They think that they are doing the thing they're supposed to do, called life, but the bike of their life is being held up by artificial stabilizers. There's things that we have put on it that we think is keeping us up, is keeping our balance, the thing that we're leaning on, relying on to keep us stabilized. There comes a point when the thing we think is keeping us stabilized is actually holding us back. It's restricting and constricting us. We have to get to a point where we realize these things have got to go. The thing we are leaning on that is not him. The thing that we take comfort in that is not him. The thing that we use to stabilize ourselves that isn't him. I don't know what that is for you. I don't know whether that is just leaning on your own understanding. You have to understand everything before you step out. I don't know whether it's you have to have all the answers. I don't know whether it's you want to control situations and people and scenarios. I don't know whether you are using more destructive means to stabilize yourself. I don't know if that's things you haven't told anybody about, whether it's eating disorders, self-harming, or all the other things that we can put a label on. Maybe there isn't a label for what you're using right now. Maybe there's just something in you that struggles to trust, that struggles to rely on anyone else because you think the only person you can ever trust is yourself. And so we artificially stabilize our lives. We fix things to it that we can get our significance and our security from, and our identity. And I think God is calling time on some of us. Yes, there's a season where we need those things. There's a season where they are necessary because we're just starting out and we don't know how to trust in him, and we're struggling to, have that kind of level of faith. But there is a time for all of us where we have to get to the point where we say, these things have got to go. I'm going to take us to a story in the Bible where exactly this is happening. This very situation, this very conversation happens between a young man and Jesus. And it's found in Matthew, and it says this. Another day, a man stopped Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" And Jesus says, "Why do you question me about what's good? God is the one who is good. If you want to enter the life of God, just do what he tells you." The man asked, "What in particular?" And Jesus said, "Don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, honor your father and mother, and love your neighbor as you do yourself." The young man said, "I've done all that. What's left?" Okay, so let's do this with the bike analogy. This is a young man coming up to Jesus going, "I can see you riding the bike of your life. You are living life big. You are getting up and down the curbs. You are maneuvering. You are doing all these things that I want to follow you. I want to do what you're doing. I see the life you're leading, and I want to follow that. What do I do?" And Jesus starts with the basics. He says, well, basically, you sit down, hold the handlebars, these are pedals, there's the thing, and you pedal and you go. Basic. And I was like, yeah, I know that, I'm doing that, I'm on my bike, I'm moving, but there's something holding me back, there's a restriction, there's something there that I can't figure out what it is, and I need you to tell me how I get free of the restriction. So in verse 21, Jesus answers him. He says, okay, if you want to give it all you've got, go sell all your possessions, give everything to the poor. All your wealth will then be in heaven. Then come follow me. That was the last thing the young man expected to hear. And so crestfallen, he walked away. He was holding on tight to a lot of things, and he couldn't bear to let go. Jesus says, okay, let me tell you, your bike, your life has got some things that you've attached to it that you think are stabilizing you, but they're holding you back. You've put your identity, he says to this young man, in your wealth and in your status and in your influence. It's in artificially attached things. If you get rid of all that, if you can get to a point where you see this has got to go and you sell all your stuff, then it will be placed in heaven, meaning you're going to have to go through me. You're going to have to trust me. It's going to be removed from the natural and placed into the supernatural, and you're going to have to walk by faith. I don't think Jesus has a problem with wealth, by the way. He has a problem with wealth being your security. He hasn't got a problem with you having a glass of wine. He has a problem with you using wine as your stabilizer. He doesn't have a problem with you enjoying Netflix. He has a problem with you being addicted to using Netflix as a stabilizer. There's just something that Jesus points out to him that says, you are using an artificial stabilizer instead of me, and you're holding on to it because you think it's keeping you upright, and it's not, it's holding you back. And I think it's one of the saddest stories, because the young man gets to a point where he realizes that what Jesus is saying is true, because that's why he feels sad. But he also realizes he can't let go. He's not ready to let go. Jesus doesn't run after him and go, you know what? I know that was a big ask. Let's just take one off for now. Let's just do like 6 weeks. You sell half your things, and then we'll do a 6-week program to help you get rid of all the rest. Now, not that there's anything wrong with programs, or workbooks or curriculums or all those things. That's great. But in this instance, there has to be something on the inside of us that goes, enough's enough. Whatever it is that I've been trusting in, that I've been leaning on, that I've been relying on, that isn't Jesus, needs to go if I want to live that life. And so this young man holds on tight. And I don't know what it is for you right now and today and in this season that you're holding on to, that God is saying, are you ready to let go of it? And it's a bit like a trapeze artist. I don't know if you've seen them before. And they're holding on tight because, let's face it, if they let go, they fall. And so they're swinging backwards and forwards. And it looks like they're moving, but actually they're just covering the same ground. And we can be like that too in life. We can be holding on to something that God is letting go, telling us to let go of. I don't know whether it's unforgiveness, or anger or bitterness or a sense of security in yourself, whatever it is for you, if you're holding on to it beyond the point that God says let go, all that you'll do is you'll swing all the way back again. And you could spend years doing this, backwards and forwards. Yes, I'm moving. Yes, there's momentum, but the momentum is just going backwards and forwards. And there comes a point of, I know I need to forgive that person. I'm ready. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I just can't let go. And we go all the way back. Do you know what? We keep saying to God, prove it, prove it, prove it, and I'll trust you. And God says, trust me. Trust me to let go when I tell you to let go, and I will prove it. And if we can get to a point where we say, okay, God, I trust you. I'm going to let go, and I trust you for the next bit. If you let go, I promise you the next one will come along. You'll grab hold of it, and you'll finally cover new ground. That's how it works. We have to let go. We have to not be afraid of that gap in between the things of letting go and holding on to what he gives us. He is a good God. He will not let you fall. He will not let you down. We've sang that this morning. I don't know what you're holding on to. Are you ready to let go? Are you ready to trust him for bringing the next thing in? There's an invitation today to let go of it. You know, when we eventually got to the point where our youngest said, these have got to go, we did the teaching them how to ride the bike without stabilizers, which basically looks like Dad running alongside. Some of you need to know that God will do that for you. There was a memory I have so clearly in my mind where we were teaching the boy, well, don't remember which one it was. This is what happens when they get older. You forget which one did this. But there was one of them. And we were teaching him how to, and I say we were teaching him how to ride. I was basically holding the camera. Matthew was doing all the running. But it was when you take those stabilizers off, there was a hand that held the back of the bike. And this particular incident happened when he was running along, and Matthew's holding on, and the child, whichever one it was shouting, "Don't let go, don't let go, don't let go," not knowing that Matthew's already just let go slightly and he's doing really well. He's learning how to do it, but there's a ditch on either side of the road, and lo and behold, he loses his balance and the bike starts heading towards the ditch, and don't let go, don't let go. And just as the bike is going into the ditch, Matthew scoops in and lifts his son up into his arms. And yes, the bike falls into the ditch and there's a big bang and clash and it's all a mess. But my son is safe in his father's arms. And you need to know today that it might feel like chaos. And it might feel like the bike of your life is wobbling out of control because you said to God that you'd step out in faith and you would trust him, and it feels like it's all going wrong and you're heading towards the ditch and there's a loud bang and a clatter and bits everywhere. But you need to know this. He will scoop you up and he will hold you close. You will be safe in his arms. He will not let you go. He will never let you down. I know this in my own life time and time again when God has asked me to step out, when he's asked me to let go, when he's asked me to not be so in need of the next thing before I let go of the thing that I feel like is giving me security. Now, every single time he has held me safe and he has caught me when I thought I was falling. Proverbs 3:5, lean on, trust in, and be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. Let me show you how we do this. Because you can be there listening to me going, yeah, that's all good and well, and that sounds great, but how do I trust him? I don't know how to trust him. I'm going to do a little demonstration to give you one of the keys to learning how to trust God. And I need my 3 volunteers. Where are they? Come on up. Now, have you ever heard of the trust test? This is the test. I'll have you over here. This is the test where one person falls back into another person's arms. You guys can be over here. Right, Kalani, you are the brave warrior who is going to trust one of these two men to catch her. You don't get both. You get to choose one. Out of these two men, who do you like? Who would you like? Not who do you like. Who would you like to catch you? It's got to be Johnny. I'm sorry, what's your name? David. I'm sorry, David. You are released. You are. I would say you're the weakest link, but you're not. Okay, so you've come closer. You've chosen Johnny. Now, that's great. We are actually going to do this. Okay, turn around. Now, first of all, why do you think she chose Johnny? She chose Johnny because she knows him. She knows that there ain't no way he is going to drop her in front of all you. There ain't no way he is going to drop her. Go for it.
Ready?
Woo! Well done. Go on. Give him a hand. She trusts him because she knows him. Here's the other thing. She's not afraid of the intimacy. She's not afraid of the closeness, of falling back into his arms. She knows him. It's a familiar thing. It's okay that he catches her. Sometimes we can be afraid of the closeness with God. You know, sometimes there's a fear of when we don't trust, we tend to pull away. But can I tell you this? When you don't trust or you're struggling to trust God, move closer. Don't move further away, move closer. You know, I do crazy things because I run a charity that relies on the generosity of kind people. And they seem to want me to do crazy things that they can sponsor. So I, about 7 years ago, did a parachute jump, tandem. And, you know, you just turn up, you sign a few papers to say you're not going to sue them if you die, all those kind of things. And I don't know how you're going to sue somebody if you're dead, but that's another thing. And you do all these things. You have about 30 minutes training, that's it. And the whole time I'm thinking, it's good, because God always uses these things to teach me like life lessons, you know, like I don't know if God does this with you, but with me it's usually like see that and notice that, and that's how it is with me and you, and he'll use all these things to explain himself to me. And this particular time I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be about fear. It's going to be about overcoming fear and, you know, all that kind of thing. So I'm waiting for the fear. And I don't know what's wrong with me. I think there's something wrong with me because I did not feel afraid at any point at all, not once. To the point where even the people around me were like, are you okay? Because you're not scared at all. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's going to be fine. If I had to look after myself to get myself out of the plane, then that would be scary. But this guy turns up, and then he turns up with this harness. And then I realize that, of course, it's a tandem jump. This means I have to get into a harness with a random Welsh guy. And, I've been married for 28 years. I kind of don't get into close proximity with other men, other than my own husband, which you'll be pleased to know, Matthew. There's like personal space that you have. And I'm like, this random Welsh guy is going to get very much inside my personal space because this harness means I step in it and he steps in it and he's literally got his legs around me. I'm like, that's very uncomfortable. I'm not happy with that level of intimacy with a complete stranger. And I felt the fear wasn't about jumping out of the aeroplane. The fear was like, this guy is strapped to my back. And I told you, there's something wrong with me. And lo and behold, This guy says something to me that is totally God at that moment. He says to me, listen, I do this every day. He thinks I'm scared. He doesn't realize I'm scared of him. He's like, listen to me. I do this every day. All I need you to do is stay close, do as you're told, and don't get in my way. I'm like, and I will get you safely to the ground. And I felt God say to me, every single time I ask you to jump out of a plane, to step out into thin air, to go beyond your own ability, I need you to stay close, to do as you're told and not to get in my way. I will get you safely wherever I've told you to go. And there's a closeness that we need with him and in him that is our security when we're stepping out. God's not expecting us to fling ourselves out of airplanes in our life without any sense of his presence. Strap in tight. You are safe with him. He will get you where he's told you to go. Psalm 9, verse 10. Just in case you think I'm making this up. Those who know your name will trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. If you want to know how to step out into the things of God, you want to know how to live the life that you can see glimpses of, you need to get familiar and comfortable with stepping out into the unknown with a known God. Corrie ten Boom, a famous person, I'll just say, because I won't describe who she is, but she's phenomenal. She has said this phrase that has been my mantra. She says, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. That is the key to stepping out in trust in every area of your life, whether it's in your job, in your finance, in relationship, in all the unanswered questions about your future and your present and even your past. Never be afraid to trust all the unknowns to a known God. If you know him, you will trust him because he is safe and he will never let you down. I'm going to end in a story of a time when this was really important to me, when I needed to step out in faith for myself. And I would love to tell you that God used some incredible scripture or an anointed speaker or some incredible revelation or dream. No, it was a Disney movie. I'm sorry, I wish I could pass on to you the lessons I learned in that situation in a more palatable style, but unfortunately it is going to be a Disney movie because it was so powerful to me. And it's from the movie Aladdin. And the story, and the particular part of this story that really grabbed me was when Princess Jasmine is standing on the balcony of her palace. And she is comfortable yet uncomfortable. Everything around her is familiar. It's beautiful, it's stable, it's steady, it's secure. It's a palace. But for her, her palace has become the prison. And maybe for you today, it seems like everything is stable and secure and safe and your feet are on solid ground, but you know every single inch of your life and there's something in you that's like, this is a prison to me. There's more, that God is calling me into more, but everything that I am in, though it looks great, it feels like it's restricting to me. And as she's standing on the balcony of her palace, something happens that is out of the ordinary, and it's Aladdin. Stay with me, I'm about to lose half of you. Aladdin is floating outside of her balcony on a magic carpet. Stay with me. And then there's an invitation. And he reaches out his hand and invites her to step onto what seems impossible. And she's looking at it going, how are you even doing that? And here she is, standing securely on everything that she's ever known. The palace that is a prison. And an invitation is given. Do you want to have an adventure? Do you want to step out beyond your own ability? further than you think you can go? Are you prepared to trust me? And he says those words to her. He puts his hand out and he goes, do you trust me? And I think God has got that same invitation to some of you here this morning. He's reaching out his hand and he's saying, do you trust me? And she looks at him and she's like, oh. Some of you are like, oh. And then she decides, okay, I recognize you. I think I know who you are. And she steps out from all that she's ever known, steps onto the seemingly impossible, and it holds her up. And then he takes her to show you the world. I've lived my life like that for many years. Stepping out when there has seemed no natural way that this could ever work out. And every single time I see his hand, do you trust me? And I can tell you now, after years and years of that scenario, I barely even think about it now. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go, because you've never let me down. You've never let me fall. It's looked hairy sometimes, and the bike's crashed down, and there's been noise and clatter, and a little bit of chaos, but every single time I know I've been safe in your arms. You are safe in his arms. Don't judge God by the people you've known. Don't judge God by churches you've known. Let him close. Let him show you who he is. Let him prove to you, as you trust him, that he is a good, good Father. Let's stand together.